Hello, broadcasters. Welcome to episode 250 of the StreamYard Live Town Hall. My name's Geige, and I'm here with Dan, of course. Dan, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
Doing well. It's been a fun week. Appreciate all the congrats on the 100K subs in the chat. Yeah, super exciting to finally hit that. And I can't thank you all enough for all the support to allow us to reach that number of subscribers. So thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and for anyone new here, Dan and I are the founders of StreamYard. We do these town halls every single Sunday at 6 p.m. Pacific, and we do them for a few reasons. One is to stay in tune with all of you, go through the same flow that you all do with your own shows and productions. Two is to answer any of your questions. That's why we're calling it Ask StreamYard. So if there's anything you'd like us to touch on tonight, feel free to leave it in the chat, and we'll do our best to get to as many questions as we possibly can. And then I always mention the three pillars of StreamYard, which are ease of use, stability, and professional streams. So if you're about those three things, StreamYard is the tool for you. See folks tuning in from all over the world tonight. We have Christian from Florida, Lori from Chicago. Great to have all of you here. Before I forget, we have some awesome shows on StreamYard. We have YouTube channel reviews with Dee and Daniel the second Saturday of every month. Really great show if you're looking to grow on YouTube. Both Dee and Daniel are pros when it comes to all things video and all things YouTube. And it's a fun show where they give sort of specific advice on individual channels, how to think about things like your analytics, your thumbnails, your community. Really valuable if you're looking to start on YouTube or you're already on YouTube and looking to grow on YouTube. And then we also have Enhance Your Live Streams the last Tuesday of the month with Nick Nimmin, who, again, is a pro when it comes to all things video, but tune into that one for your specific live streaming questions. Then one thing we've been doing at the start of these so that we get to know a little bit more about you and you get to know a little bit more about us is a fun fact. And the fun fact we had for tonight is, what's the most interesting wildlife encounter you've ever had? Do you have a interesting wildlife encounter, Dan?
I've got a lot of interesting wildlife encounters. I don't know if I would use the word interesting. Maybe the scariest wildlife encounter. Well, I mean, I've had a lot of encounters with bears. Just growing up in Canada on the West Coast and working in the woods with a few jobs when I was in high school. I think the most interesting one, though, is I remember, I want to say I was in kindergarten, so 5 years old, walking to school and running into a bear. And, you know, my family was like, my mom, I think, was walking to school with me and a few friends. I think that was probably the scariest because as a 5-year-old, you're pretty intimidated by a massive bear. How about you? I mean, at any age, you're intimidated, but especially at 5.
Yeah, absolutely. Bear is definitely intimidating. Yeah, I was trying to think. At first, I was like, I don't think I've had too many interesting wildlife encounters. And then I thought of one that would be a fun one because it doesn't have anything to do with the StreamYard logo, but it does involve a duck. So when I was young, there was actually I think like there was like a family of ducks that kind of got split up. So there was like a stray baby duck that was just like hanging out in our pond because it had gotten left from its mom or whatever and had an injured leg. So we actually took care of it. And my mom went to like take it to the pet store for them, or not the pet store, but like some area that sells duck feed that has a lot of ducks to take it. And the person at that store actually convinced her that they had too many ducks and ducks do well with a friend. So she actually came home with 2 ducks instead of 1 duck. And we had a couple pet ducks for a couple years before they went back into the wild. But that was pretty funny.
That's awesome. That would actually be a good story for the logo.
Yeah, not the logo, but it was a nice duck memory.
Cool.
See, lots of questions for tonight. So let's get into some of these before talking a little bit about the update for tonight, as well as I know there's tons of questions about some of the mobile stuff from last week. So happy to get to more of those tonight as well. But yeah, let's see what we have here. Melnet says, when using the StreamYard giveaway picker, if I stream to both YouTube and Facebook, will Facebook entries be counted too? Yes, absolutely. If you're streaming to YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, all platforms where we are able to pull comments in, the giveaway picker supports, right, Dan?
Yep. Basically, if you see it in the studio, it will show up in the giveaway tool. Just make sure you start the giveaway tool at the beginning of the stream if you want to make sure you get all the comments.
Cool.
Or start it before you ask for people to type in whatever the comment is, I should say.
Absolutely. Stan the Human says, I have a question. Today I went live on YouTube. Hours later, it still says processing, leaving me unable to market it, especially using other platforms. How can StreamYard make this better? So yeah, that's definitely surprising, Stan. Generally, it should be immediately, like assuming you were doing a live stream, it should be immediately available after the live stream is over. if you go to StreamYard.com/contact, there's a live chat support there, and they might be able to help troubleshoot with you what's going on. My best guess is that it would be something having to do with YouTube, like if maybe there was something copyright in the video that's causing it to process longer or something like that. But best thing to do would be to troubleshoot with support. But that is surprising. It should be immediately available. So hopefully they can help with that.
Yeah.
Let's see what else we have here. JR White says, can you use your StreamYard account on more than one YouTube channel? Yes, absolutely, JR White. You can use StreamYard on any YouTube channel you like. And so go ahead, Dan.
I would probably say the same thing. It's pretty common to stream to multiple as well. So, you could do like a stream where you just go to one YouTube channel and then a different stream where you go to a different one. Or as long as you're on one of the paid plans where you can multi-stream, you could just go to multiple YouTube channels at once. Totally fine.
Cool. Let's see. VMPO says, I have a question. Why did you give me free backgrounds? So on the free plan, we do have various sample backgrounds to use, right?
Yep. All plans.
It's intentional VMPO. Just want to give you guys some cool options to be able to use for your streams.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Paranormal Gateway says, when having multiple guests in studio and starting the stream to introduce them, is it possible to have a feature to have them come in at the same time?
Yeah.
You want to take that one, Dan?
Yeah, and I know Geige has talked about this in previous, so I have as well, but in previous StreamYard shows, so you may have already seen that, but it's one of the things we're trying to include as we think about how to add more customization in the studio. So custom layouts obviously added a lot of customization, but there's still more stuff people want to be able to do like this. So some of the changes we'll be making relatively soon should address that, I believe. It's going to address a whole bunch of stuff and add a lot more power while still obviously being really easy to use. And I think that's one of the things we'll handle.
Cool. Let's do a couple more here before getting into the announcement for tonight. Let's see. G. Albert says, inquiring minds want to know, is that a real or virtual room behind you? I assume you mean mine because mine has a little bit more going on than Dan's, but both of us are both very much real rooms behind us.
But it would be pretty cool if mine was virtual.
Yeah, that would be interesting. David Burrows says, any chance of uploading .mov files? I often like to use SY on mobile as an iOS user. Yes, David, it's definitely something we want to support. One thing that has stopped us from it in the past is making sure that it's supported across all devices. But this is something we want to add and that we're looking into, right, Dan?
Yep, exactly.
Okay, let's do one more here. Let's go. So with Joanne says, if I type a comment in the studio, does it show up in both YouTube and Facebook stream? So yeah, that's up to you. Let's go. So with Joanne. So by default, it's generally set to all. So if you type in a comment, it will go to both. But if you wanted to just send it to one or the other, you could also do that. But the default is going to be if you type a comment, that it will go out to both.
Yep,
So
and it does depend as well. Like when you're in the studio, in the bottom where you're typing in the comment, there's the little circle that lets you select where you want to post to, and that's where Geige is referring to it saying all by default when you're multi-streaming. If you click into there, though, you'll see some of them don't allow you to post. So, for example, you can't actually post to a Facebook group or profile from the studio. Facebook just doesn't allow that, basically. But Facebook pages are fine. YouTube's fine. So it does kind of depend where you're streaming to, but most platforms, a lot of platforms support it. The most common ones support it, I should say.
Cool. I'll actually do one last one from Intentional. Question says, any update on if and when we will be able to integrate our CRM/marketing platforms with On Air, so double opt-in and other automation works easily when people sign up? Yeah, it's a great question, Intentional. And for anyone who isn't familiar with what On Air is basically StreamYard's solution for if you want to do a webinar or potentially do a private live stream embedded on your own website. In addition to the other platforms, it works directly alongside it. And the answer is yes, we absolutely want to integrate with popular CRMs, and it's something the On Air team is actively working on. So stay tuned on that. We recently added stuff like custom registration, so we do plan on continuing to add the sort of top requested stuff when it comes to what folks look for in things like a webinar product. So stay tuned on that. Anything else to add to that one, Dan?
Always just curious which CRM you use or what you're most interested in us integrating with. And we can definitely integrate with Zapier, and then you can kind of use anything, but maybe not the ideal flow. So yeah, just curious which one you actually use. And for anyone that wants this, if you want to have a CRM to integrate with on air, which CRM do you want?
Cool. Let's do a couple of the announcements before getting back to some of the questions we have here. So the one for tonight, which was in the title, is the new touch-up filter slider. So this was a top request after we launched the touch-up filter. We definitely got a lot of feedback where some folks were like, it's not doing enough touch-up in terms of like how much it's actually doing. And then on the other side, it's too much touch-up. I just want to have it be a little bit less intense. So now you have actually the option. I think Dan has a picture. The ability to choose, how. Oh, let me hide this. How I believe there's 4 or so settings or 5 settings there.
There are 5 settings. Yeah.
So you have more control in terms of like how dramatic you want the touch-up effect to be. So hopefully that's a welcome change. It definitely was coming up a lot in the chat. If you have had a chance to try it, definitely let us know if it now sort of is customizable enough to meet your requirements when it comes to how much of a touch-up effect you want. And yeah, let us know if there's anything else you'd like to see different in the future with it.
Yep, and there's quite a lot of variance, I would say. So on the low end, like Geige said, there's 5 settings. So the middle one is actually what we had before. So if you had used it before, the third setting, the middle one, is what is the same, and that'll kind of be the default. But then, yeah, if you tone it all the way down, it's a lot more subtle, and if you tone it up, it's quite a bit more intense. So a lot of variance in there, and it should be enough options for everyone. And we also, just one thing to add, we also made some changes to make it more performant. So it does just work better in general now, and then we're still working on making it even more performant if we can.
Cool. Sounds like folks are excited about it in the chat. Awesome, Nancy. Same with Shelby. Glad you'll have more flexibility now. Great to see that.
Yeah, it was a little intense in some cases.
Yeah, it definitely could be. The other one I wanted to touch on, which was a pretty big announcement last week, so just wanted to mention it again for anyone that missed it, is obviously the StreamYard Guest iOS app, which we're really excited about. It's been something the team's been working on for a really long time. The main reason we wanted to launch this is when it comes specifically to iOS, the support for sort of the tech that StreamYard uses has generally never been quite as good as what you have on stuff like Chrome. But by launching an iOS app, we're able to address a lot of essentially all of those issues. So by using the iOS app, you should be able to get much better audio quality and also have a lot more flexibility when it comes to things like being able to use external microphones. And so it basically just allows us to provide a much better experience when folks happen to be on iOS. There is not a producer version of the app yet, or a studio version of the app yet, but that is in our plans. And that'll be an exciting one to add as well, because that additional flexibility that comes with having the native experience on iOS will allow us to do things like allowing screen sharing on mobile, which historically has just been limited to the desktop, along with things like the ability to have virtual backgrounds and whatnot. So pretty excited to have that application live. And if you have had a chance to try it, or you get a chance to try it, definitely let us know. The team is eager to iterate on it and improve on it. Anything else to share with that one, Dan?
Yeah, there's so much there. I mean, I think you covered it pretty well. But yeah, basically, it should be a more stable experience. To be clear, this is just for iOS. So and it's just for guests. So if you have a guest that's joining on their iPhone or iPad, we would recommend using the app. That will be the most stable experience. They can still use Safari on their phone, but I would recommend the app. For Android, they'll still just use it in the browser. It's just Chrome on Android is a lot more stable than Safari was. And then also on desktop, they just keep joining the browser like they always did. So this is for guests on iPhones and iPads. And then as Geige said, we will have a host version for iOS as well at some point.
Cool. Awesome. Let's do a few more questions here. We did have a couple other ones to quickly touch on, but I want to make sure we address all the questions. Let's go. So with Joanne says, so they can join from their iPhone and still have good quality. Yes, hopefully great quality. And just to be clear, you can still join from like the Safari browser on iPhone, and that's something we'll continue to support and make it as good as possible. It's just something that we've continued to bump into limitations in terms of like how much we can customize it and how good we can actually make it. So we did want to make the investment to make a full-on native app for iPhone to give the best possible quality. But yeah, the whole idea is that they should be able to get really good quality if they're joining from an iPhone, particularly if you're using the local recording feature as well. It's a really good option for that.
Yep. Yeah. And I would say, like, if your internet or if your guest internet is really bad, it's still a problem. So if you're trying to do a live stream and your guest internet is really bad, the app won't magically fix that. Ideally, they have pretty good internet. But like I said, local recording will kind of work around that. So if you are doing local recording, at least you have a high quality recording, but the stream will still kind of be degraded. But in general, it will just work better. It will handle internet issues better. It will make your camera look better. Just everything about it is better tuned than the Safari version is, just because, like Geige mentioned, with the app, we can kind of control everything all the way down to the low level, whereas in Safari, we couldn't really do that.
Awesome. Let's see what else we had here. Marianne says, question, can you copy what's in a brand so it saves you from having to add everything individually that you may be using for all brand names? We do have the option to duplicate a brand, right, Dan?
No.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Banner folder.
Sorry, I mixed up the. Okay.
Yeah, you can duplicate a banner folder. You cannot duplicate a brand right now. We're definitely open to it. It's something we've explored. So I would say that's possible.
But not at this time. Something we want to.
Yeah, you can't do it right now, unfortunately.
But yeah, definitely understand the need, Marianne. So appreciate the feedback.
And also just always curious, Marianne, what exactly you're trying to achieve, like why you have another brand and you want to copy a bunch of stuff in the first place. Like, do you want to have, and I don't think we can get that from your comment. Having to add everything individually that you may use for all brand names. Yeah, I guess I'm just curious, why do you have multiple brands? Is it different types of shows? And if so, like they have mostly the same assets, but slightly different ones. So you want to copy maybe some of the assets, delete some of them, and add some new ones. You can just give us some thoughts on that. That would be helpful.
Cool. Lenora says, so we can embed StreamYard on our website and stream from our website versus streaming from social media platforms. Yes, On Air absolutely allows you to do that. And that's a very common way folks are using it, is to promote sort of like an event or a webinar and embed that directly on their website, potentially behind sort of like a sign up form or something like that. So yeah, you absolutely can do it. And you can also do it at the same time as social media. So maybe you want to do something where you're going live to social as well as your own website. You can do that as well. And there's even you can even embed chat as well. So folks can actually chat directly from your website using StreamYard. Let's see here. Let's go. So with Joanne says, is computer with hardwire still the best option? Yes, when it comes to getting the best possible sort of network connection, let's go. So with Joanne, that's definitely recommended. Obviously not an option on phones, but if you have a strong, signal, that's totally fine as well. Hardwire just eliminates a lot of potential risks when it comes to, losing packets and stuff like that.
Yep.
Joshua says, any plans to integrate with booking platforms such as Calendly and TidyCal? That's a good question, Joshua. It's definitely something we've chatted about in the past. It hasn't come up as frequently as we would expect. So we're always interested in learning more about your use case. Is it like, do you have a regular sort of like podcast where you want folks to be able to like opt in? And it'd be great to know more details about how you'd like that integration to work, where like, would it create an event or create a stream on StreamYard when someone booked in? It would be good to know what you'd like to see when it comes to that type of integration. American English with Brent. I see your question there about the Android users and having some trouble joining. There shouldn't be any issues with that, but if you had an error, I would definitely reach out to support and they can hopefully help troubleshoot what might be going on there.
Yep.
Awesome, Chris. That's so kind of you to say. It's a pleasure getting feedback from all of you and getting the chance to support all of you. So it's our pleasure.
Yes, definitely.
Sebastian says, any ideas on how to stream from a Raspberry Pi or something with little computer power, which can stream at the resolution required, but does not have enough compute power to do it in the browser? That's a cool question, Sebastian. So I've never actually tried using StreamYard from a Raspberry Pi, but the whole idea with StreamYard is that it is a cloud-based solution, so it should be significantly less intense than having a streaming software that essentially is using your own computer resources versus the cloud. So when it comes to the streaming tools out there, I would think you'd have the best shot at being able to do it using something.
I don't know if I can run a browser,
but yeah, if the Raspberry Pi can't even open a browser, I would think that it could open a
For anyone who doesn't know what a Raspberry Pi is, it's almost like a mini computer. Is the only way I think I can describe it. A lot of people build electronics projects with it, basically.
But yeah, I don't have any immediate ideas, Sebastian. I do have a couple of Raspberry Pis. Maybe I'll try on StreamYard on it and see if I can do it. I mean, technically, another thing you could do is just like there are sort of low-level capture tools but if you can't even open a browser, I don't know if you would be able to use something like FFmpeg, but maybe look into something like that as well. All right, let's see what else we had here. Flames Nation says, will .mov overlays be available in the future? Touched briefly on that earlier. Definitely something we want to support and something we're looking into, Flames Nation. Historically, it's mostly been around device support, but we're looking into ways to work around that because I know it would unlock a lot of cool stuff when it comes to overlays. Gary says, late to the party, but are Android users going to have the same features as iPhone users? That's a good question, Gary. So the first version of this app is iOS only. We are open and considering adding an Android app as well. Historically, there has been a lot more flexibility on Android in terms of what it can do directly in Chrome, but it's definitely possible. But in terms of having the same features, long-term plan is to have essentially, all features across all devices, right, Dan?
Yeah.
But yeah, there might be times where there is a bit of a gap as we figure things out.
Yep. Yeah, it was basically a higher priority for iOS just because there's bigger issues with Safari, whereas Chrome works fairly well. But yeah, it does have the same limitations where you can't screen share, for example.
Absolutely. Let's see here. I guess I just want to make sure that we cover some of the other ones we wanted to touch on tonight, and then we'll get back to some of these questions. So in case you missed it, there were a few other recent feature additions. In case you missed them, one was gifted membership support, specifically for YouTube. So if you don't know what gifted memberships are, it's basically if someone in your chat on YouTube, assuming your channel's monetized and stuff like that, is able to basically gift a bunch of memberships such that a random group of sort of the most active folks in your chat will have access to membership features for a month or I think it's always a month, right, Dan?
Yeah. So basically, if I was watching a stream and I said, hey, I want to give $20 to the streamer to buy some memberships, it would show that I had maybe gifted 5 memberships to the stream.
Yeah. Absolutely. And yeah, so that'll now be visible in the studio, which we're excited about.
Yep. And it's just like Super Chat where it's highlighted. It'll be auto-starred. You can show it on screen. It'll look really nice and kind of call out that person and give them a shout out.
Cool. I see lots of questions about Rumble tonight. So you are able to stream to Rumble from StreamYard using the RTMP option. I believe they are working on an API as well, but right now there is not a direct integration.
Yes, Beauty Bubble, you got it.
Cool.
It's brand new, so it doesn't, and the reviews do take a little while to show up and stuff. So it definitely looks like, oh, this looks like a brand new app, but it is brand new. So
yeah, just
that would be why. So yeah, thanks for confirming. And we'll start linking to it pretty soon. So when a guest enters the studio, we'll link out to it, and then that'll be more discoverable. Right now, you do have to search for it.
All right. Cool. And the other one I wanted to quickly mention, it's been a few weeks now, so you've probably seen it, but in case you missed it, we do have video backgrounds now, which you can probably tell we have a very subtle one going on now. So hopefully that's working well for folks. If you have any feedback, definitely let us know. We're going to continue to improve it based on what we hear from all of you. We have gotten lots of questions in terms of how can I make my own cool video background? So we likely will also be releasing some more content on how you can easily do it with a variety of programs. For now, probably the best place to start is something like Adobe Spark or Canva or the more advanced Adobe products are also popular as well. But yeah, hopefully we can have more info for folks in the future in terms of how to make your own.
Yeah, and we did give enough examples in the brand tab. If you click to add a background, there are a lot of examples in there. So hopefully that works for quite a few of you. But obviously, if you want something a little more on brand, you'll have to make it yourself.
Absolutely. Should we go ahead and queue up the giveaway for tonight, Dan, while I do a few more questions here?
Let's do it.
All right. Cool. I think many folks are already familiar with the giveaways we do, but yeah, at the end of these, we always do a giveaway. And tonight we'll be giving away a StreamYard pillow and a StreamYard sweater. And to be eligible, all you have to do is type in hashtag the yard. It'll only count one time, so you don't need to type it a bunch of times. And if you're ever interested in running one of these giveaways on your own, we actually made this tool publicly available at StreamYard.com/giveaway, and you can run it just like how Dan and I are doing it now. And you can even choose your own sort of hashtag to match the theme of your own show or your own giveaway. So we'll give you maybe 10 seconds or so to get in your hashtag, the yards. Awesome, Chris. Glad that it's working out for you. Awesome to see. Awesome. Glad to hear that, Chantel. They do add. I do think they're pretty cool for adding some, making your show look pretty unique potentially.
Yeah. As long as you don't make one that's too crazy, because then it can be a bit distracting, which is why all our examples are pretty subtle. But if you have a nice subtle effect that's really on brand, I think it adds a little bit of professional quality to the stream.
Yeah, that's a good question, John. John says, in On Air, can you leave a past event recording on your website, or does it need to be hosted somewhere? No. So StreamYard now is a full-on hosting platform. So whether it applies to both On Air and even your live streams as well, you will always, after your stream or event is over, have the option to embed that on your own website. You won't have to download and re-upload. StreamYard will actually host it for you, and hopefully we'll be looking into adding other cool things around that as well in terms of making that experience even easier. But if I believe there's an option to have it automatically convert, right, Dan, where when you embed it on your website, you can have it where once it's over, basically the same way YouTube works, it will essentially turn into a video on demand. Or
by default, that is how it works. You have to actually turn it off if you don't want it.
Cool.
So there's a setting in the On Air settings page. In the same place, if you've ever seen the registration settings where you can add custom registration and stuff, there's a setting that just says available on demand. If you turn that off, it will not allow people to watch the replay, but by default, they'll be able to watch it. And it'll still have the registration page and stuff if you do have registration on.
Cool. Has the number calmed down? Okay, cool. We'll go ahead and run the...
And sorry, what are we giving away?
We're giving away a StreamYard pillow and a StreamYard sweater.
Cool. Good luck, everyone.
Cece, hopefully I'm saying your name correctly. Thanks so much for hanging out with us tonight. If you could send an email to contact@StreamYard.com, the team can work with you to get you your brand new StreamYard sweater and your StreamYard pillow shipped over. Congrats again, and thanks for hanging out with us tonight.
Very cool. Congrats.
All right, we have time, I think, for one or two more here. Kevin says, can I use StreamYard to Twitter/YouTube Live at the same time? Yep, absolutely. And if you're, depending on the plan you're on, you could potentially even go to more than that. So you could also do Facebook, LinkedIn, all of those places at the same time, for sure. And glad to hear that you're enjoying the subscription, Kevin. Happy to hear that. Itty Bitty Micro Farm says, made video background and used it today and love it. That's awesome.
Cool.
Studio says, I tried Canva and my file was too large. Any ideas on that? Yeah, there's a few programs you could use to try to shrink it. Any specific thoughts on that one, Dan?
Yeah, be curious if it's, I assume you mean the file size is too high versus the length of the video is too long. Yeah, first of all, if you can export it in, say, 720p, I would hope it's small enough, but sometimes things aren't compressed heavily at all and they're just massive. I would like if we can extend our, increase the size. We can upload on StreamYard a little bit. I don't think we would go too much though, because it can take quite a while to upload large files and optimize them. But yeah, you can also compress it, like Geige said. If for some reason Canva gives you this massive file that's not compressed, you can put it in some kind of compression tool. Just make sure it doesn't compress it too much, or else it won't look very good.
Yeah, and like Dan said, first thing to check is probably make sure it's not 4K or something like that. Make sure that it's 720, probably ideally, and it should probably be the right size. But if not, hopefully we can maybe increase that a bit. All right. On that note, this was episode 250 of the StreamYard Live Town Hall. Thank you all so much for hanging out with us. It's always a pleasure to get the chance to answer your questions and hear your feedback. We'll see you next week at the same time, Sunday at 6 p.m. Pacific.
Yes, and thanks for helping us hit 100K subscribers on YouTube.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you all so much.